I've previously made videos on things that I no longer own or buy, but I've realized that there are some things that I just hate to spend my money on, or things that I just never really see myself buying. And oddly, there's also things that I spend more money on after having embraced a minimalist lifestyle. This will be a two-part video, so be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss when I post the next video, where I'll be sharing 10 things that I spend more money on as a minimalist. But today, I'm going to be sharing with you the 10 things that I just refuse to spend money on. Before we begin, hey, I'm Yessie. On this channel, we talk about minimalism and intentional living through a holistic lens. As in, we don't just talk about decluttering and making a space cozy. As a previous hospice nurse, I like to go further than superficial conversations. But I also want to warn you that this video is meant as a list of ideas that are personal to me. I know that when I was first starting with minimalism and trying to not only declutter physical items, but also negative spending habits, these sort of videos were really helpful to me. So hopefully it will be helpful to you, but this by no means is a list of things that you should or shouldn't be doing. First up is themed party decor. Whether the party is for an adult or for children, themed party decor is just not something that we spend money on, or actually just really party decor in general. I see, for example, kids parties especially. I'm like, why even buy decorations? They don't care. Kids are just running around doing their own thing. If you spent that money on like a bouncy house, for example, or games or a piñata, kids will be much happier. But I've seen arches of balloons at certain parties for kids, and I'm thinking, poor kiddos, because they're just staring at this balloon arch, wishing that they could just play with the darn things instead of looking at them. And even if it's not a kids party that we're talking about and it's an adult party, the people that are there to see you, to spend time with you, they really aren't going to notice those things. And if they are, and they're gonna point it out like, oh, this is bland, you don't have a tablecloth, they may not have the best intentions anyway. I don't really know that you'd want those kinds of people at your parties. And even if I did have like an extra budget, I still think that a piñata or a bouncy house, or even if it's for adults, like spending that money towards better food, for example, that's where I would rather put my money towards. Not the decor that nobody's really caring about anyway. Number 2 is something that I feel very strongly about, but please don't hate me for this one. It's unnecessary work attire or office decor, or just any expenses that are related to work. I'm of the belief that whenever we go to work, we're going there to make money. I'm not going there to spend more money, because the more money that I spend on things that are related to work, then the longer that I have to be there and work in exchange for that stuff. I worked as a nurse for almost a decade, and in that time, I replaced my scrubs really only whenever I changed units for work, or actually also when I was pregnant, because things just didn't fit anymore. And I remember having a pair of scrubs that I had leaned on some paint and it had paint stains. One of them was like tearing apart because I tried to wear it when I was pregnant because I refused to buy more scrubs, and then it was kind of like a little bit torn, and then I still ended up wearing it after I was pregnant. My goodness, like my scrubs were looking raggedy and not very good, and I probably should have purchased more, but it felt to me like, why? Why should I spend my money on this? I'm coming here to make money, and you want me to spend more money on these things? And some people would buy them with like the different patterns and make them pretty. I didn't care. Like, I was there to get my job done and to do my job well. And then when it comes to office decor and things like that, I know that, for example, my sister who works at an office loves to kind of decorate a little bit so that it feels a little bit more cozy and it kind of becomes like a home away from home. But me personally, again, I just find it like, if I'm spending more money on these things, then that means that I have to be there longer. And that's just not my priority. So take it or leave it. That was something that I just have always felt strongly about. And even things like gatherings, like work gatherings, I never ever presented if it was something where I had to pay money to go to. Like, for example, some of my coworkers would sometimes gather at restaurants and things like that. I never would do that. And if there was a meeting where there was free food, I would be there. But if I had to pay, no, I was never there. To me, work was just very clearly defined as work, and home was very separate. And I never really mixed the two, and that was how I was able to really keep peace, especially being a nurse, ICU, hospice, like dealing with very emotional type things. I wanted to have a very clearly defined separate line, work and home, and I never really wanted to combine them together or make work feel more cozy so that I'd spend more time there. Just no. Work is work and home is home. And spending any more money on work to me was just not worth it. Number 3 is the Alexas, the Googles, and all the other thingamajiggies that are out there. This is not something that I wouldn't use, like if I was gifted it, for example, but it's something that I personally wouldn't spend my money on. And I'm not bashing your smart tech with this, because I do have smart tech. Like, I have a smart thermostat and I have smart bulbs, and they're very helpful, but I've just realized the things that they do to me. I'll give you an example. Here recently, I caught myself out loud saying the words, "I cannot not have a microwave." And I knew when I said that, I had to take a break. So I took 30 months off, or not 30 months, 30 days of not using a microwave. And it really opened my eyes to making me see how lazy I had become, how dependent on technology I had become, and how ungrateful I had become. I remember once reading this book about the science of money, and I don't remember the title, so I'll look it up and see if I can put it down here or put it in the description. But it basically said that you shouldn't talk about your time when you were in poverty or the time when money was tight because it keeps you in that poverty mindset. And I disagree. I disagree because I feel that when I remember that I came from poverty, when I remember that I had one shirt to wear, when I remember that I had to share a meal with my family, it keeps me more humble. And it can be so easy to really become dependent on technology. And I have a lot of technology. Obviously, I have this YouTube channel. So I think for me, the less I have of it, the less dependent I can become. And I know, at least for me, I become so easily dependent on it where sometimes I'll be laying down and I want to tell Siri to turn the thermostat and I realize my phone's not there. I'm like, I have to walk to the thermostat? And then I just kind of look at myself like, Yessie, what a spoiled brat you've become. It's something that can be really, really helpful. Like especially somebody that has a physical disability, man, how awesome it is that we have smart tech. But for me personally, I just know that I easily become lazy and dependent and ungrateful. So spending the money on these sorts of things is not something that I would personally do. Not that it's not awesome, not that they're not helpful, but it's just something that I don't want to be even more dependent on. Number 4 is car washes. Some of you will think that I am gross for saying this, and some of you will relate to me. I recently sold my car after quitting my nursing job, and I tell you, I had that car for years, and I washed it twice. Once because I parked under a tree where a bunch of birds, or maybe one bird with diarrhea, pooped all over my car. And then the other time was because I drove through this very muddy area and it wasn't gonna rain anytime soon, and I didn't want my car getting crusty. So those were the only 2 times that I ever washed my car. I know that my husband completely disagrees with me on this. He thinks that if the car is what's getting you to work and it's what's bringing home the bacon, then you should take care of your car. But to me, it just seems like a superficial exterior thing that doesn't really impact how the car functions. So I never really cared for car washes. We don't have a garage, so the rain just kind of does it by itself and it's totally free and I don't have to spend time on that. So I don't know, for me, car washes are just something that I never could quite understand. Let me know where you fall on this one. Are you for car washing or do you just totally hate it like me? Let me know in the comments. Number 5, dry cleaning and laundry services. One of the very first things to leave my outrageously overstuffed wardrobe when I was first decluttering was all of my dry clean only items. And then I was thereafter very careful not to repurchase dry clean items. Every now and then I would accidentally bring something home and realize, oh shoot, it was dry clean, and then I'd have to return it. But ever since then, I have never intentionally bought dry clean items. 1, obviously because they cost money to take care of, but then 2, because I just don't want to bother the time to take them from there and bring them back. And then I also know that because I have to have that extra hassle, it's likely not even something that I'm going to wear that often because I don't want to bother with it. I don't even own an iron. I don't even buy clothing that requires ironing for that matter because I don't want to bother with that. I don't want to spend my precious lifespan doing laundry in very particular ways. I mean, I don't know, maybe you enjoy laundry, but for me, when it comes to laundry and clothing, I prefer the bare necessities. The simpler, the better. Number 6 is food and drink at amusement parks, fairs, or festivals. You might think that I'm a total cheapskate by now, but I'm really not. It's just that I can value spending money in certain areas, but there's other areas where I just can't justify it. And this is one of those areas. That $7 slice of pizza that tastes like a piece of cardboard, to me, is just not worth it. I recently took my kids to a couple of different festivals, and instead of buying that overpriced food, we spent that money towards them playing at a bouncy house for half an hour, and they had a blast. To me, the experience of a fair or a festival or an amusement park, it's about the experience of being there, not the food that I eat while I'm there. Number 7 is a simple one, and it's unnecessary bills or just an additional quantity of bills. So obviously we all want to reduce our bills and cut back on certain things. And when I did quit my job, I did quit a lot of our bills. Like for example, I sold my car. So that meant that I didn't have oil changes anymore, that I wouldn't have maintenance anymore, that I wouldn't have to pay the tag fee anymore. So that eliminated a lot of expenses. I also did a lot of other things that really removed some expenses. And I have a different video on that. I'll link it down below. But one of the things that I did too was just to kind of condense our expenses. purchases. So for example, our insurances, I condensed it down to one company that would have all of our insurances together because we also have a business. So we have business insurance and we were doing separate bills. And even though I have a lot of things automated, to me, it still takes up mind space. It's easier if I have less bills to manage. And even recently with our internet company, for example, I found that they also have a phone service. So I condensed down our internet and our phone to one company. And that one bill was actually a lot cheaper. So we saved like $60 off of our phone bill. And then we also had a discount off of our internet because we merged them together. So being able to merge my bills and to reduce the quantity of them, to me, just saves me a lot of time and energy. Number 8 is warranties. With one exception, my husband recently got an Apple phone and we purchased the Apple Care for a short term while he received his screen protector and his phone case from Amazon, which was much, much, much cheaper. And then we canceled it thereafter. But other than that, I can't even think of anything that I have a warranty on. And this is probably something that would bite me in the butt. Like for example, I had my computer break unexpectedly. I'm like, why? Where did it even happen? Like I never even knocked it. I never bumped into it, but things happen. So I did have to replace that and it was quite an expensive expense, but I find that things rarely happen like that. And I find that if I buy better quality stuff, I don't never have to worry about that stuff. Like there's so many kinds of warranties that people will sell you for so many things that I feel like if you go down that rabbit hole, like there's so much money draining that can happen. So that's just not something that I personally spend money on. Number 9 is something that's very important to me, and it's paid personal care. In the past, I learned how to do individual lash extensions, so I was able to do that. I don't do that anymore. I was also able to do my own nails. I had like this UV thing and I would do my own nails and put my little stickers on. I don't even do that anymore, so that's easy, done. But I also still do things like doing my own eyebrows, cutting my own hair, and just to me, personal care is not an area where I want to spend money on. I have had times where people will treat me like for Mother's Day to get my nails done, and I love it and I really enjoy it, and it's a good time and I like the way that they look for that short time, but it's not something that I can personally justify spending that money on. I would much, much, much rather spend that money on something that's a bigger purchase that's going to last me for a while longer. I gave an example in a different video where I had always thought that pianos were for rich people and that I could never have one. And then I stopped spending on personal care and I kind of would slowly raise some money to be able to spend towards me and something that I would want for myself. And the piano was one of those things that I wanted to purchase. And I'm so glad that I did. I'm so glad that I spent that money on it. I've been playing it for a few months now and I'm still definitely a baby, but I've so enjoyed it. Certain things that I want for myself, I wouldn't be able to have if I'd constantly spend money on certain things. And this is an area where, to me, I just can't justify because I can do it myself and I don't want to spend the time to drive there and back and wait in line and make an appointment or all these things. And two, the less of it that I do, like for example, I don't do my eyelashes anymore, I don't do my nails anymore, the easier it is. I feel that I'm a lot freer because of that. I can just be me and not have to worry about how am I looking. And I still do definitely enjoy makeup, for example, but it's not something that I'm like obsessed about like I used to be in the past. Number 10 is ice cream and fast food. Dairy flares up my eczema, it makes me feel bloated and icky, and it just is highly processed and has tons of sugar, and it's much more expensive than if I were to just buy a bunch of ingredients and make it at home in a much healthier version. I find that in the summertime, my husband is always wanting to go to the ice cream parlor, but we are very blessed to have a Vitamix, which is able to make ice cream. It's actually made with that purpose, that you can make ice cream with it. And I would often be like, why are we spending all this money on ice cream that's not even good for us, that we're gonna feel icky after having eaten, that I literally could have bought like bags of fruit and made ice cream at home. So in the summertime, we now make our own ice cream. And I basically just buy a bunch of fruit whenever it's on sale, I freeze it, and then make our own. And then when it comes to fast food, I just no longer spend money on that because it's something that I don't want to spend my money on something that's gonna make me feel icky afterwards. I'd rather spend it towards good quality ingredients that make me feel better. I actually went as far too as not even accepting like the freebies, because I had an app for a gas station that would give me free pizzas and gas station snacks. I found that even with those, I would feel like, why am I accepting this? Even though it's free, it's still something that's hurting me in the long run. Like it's free now, but eventually I'll have to pay it back with doctor bills because I'm not healthy because I'm eating this all the time just because it's free. So that's just me. I do still eat those things if that's what you've got and I'm there at your house and all you got is pizza that's fine. I'll eat that. But it's not something that I'm going to spend my money on or that go out of my way to look for. I would definitely rather to make my own things at home, even if it takes a little bit longer. Like even with the ice cream thing, it takes me less than 5 minutes to make an ice cream at home. But the time that we would have spent going and driving to and waiting in line and getting that ice cream, it's not something that I want to spend money on. Okay, and this is totally more than 10, but we'll call it a bonus. I just can't not mention this one, and it's disposable items. I'm not saying that I don't have disposable items because sometimes they're necessary, but whenever possible, I buy the reusable version. There's a lot of different items around the home that I've swapped out that disposable version for the reusable one. Again, it's not just about the money, it's about the time. Now I have to go and spend time to be able to replace these items over and over and over again. So wherever it is possible that I can kind of ease that, not only the money outflow, but also the time and energy to replace items, to me, it just makes things a lot easier where it's a lot less that I have to think about. And two, I also do have 2 separate videos of disposable items that you can swap out for the reusable version. So I can link that down below so you can check it out after this one. That's it for today's video. I hope it didn't come off as me telling you like, this is how you should do things, because that was not at all the intent of the video. But I really hope that you got some value out of it, because some of these, or I think really most of these, are things that by cutting out, I've not only been able to cut out an expense, but also be able to free up more time and energy for things that I do value. So hopefully you found it helpful. If so, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you won't miss when I post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.